And we're back, people. We are back. Your favorite sports podcast, roaming the airwaves, rolling with Ramos, is back. Episode 140 this week. We come through your airwaves like a Seattle Supersonics. See, y'all don't know about the Seattle Supersonics. We dunking on people and we pointing at them, baby. Shout out to Sean with a W. Episode 140, the Sean Kemp edition. I happen to be the one that holds the last name Ramos. I like to specifically, as I always do, thank our logo, Mike Ramos in heaven for that one. Hey, Mike, be 6 years this week. Ain't it crazy? I can't imagine not talking to you this long. But anyways, episode 140. Tristan will be here in a minute. He's momentarily, I told him that this is the only thing that's important. But he always gotta go find something else to do. But he'll be joining us in a few. As always, my guys, Sports Q&A, Quinn and Al joining me. Special announcement. If you love these guys as much as I love these guys, they're going to be with us once a month. I need like a button, or something like that. But they're going to be with us once a month. I'm glad and I'm happy that these guys continue to let me call them. You answer my phone calls and text messages as if you have a choice. But I'm appreciative. Happy Tuesday.
How's it going?
Great Tuesday.
Everything's copacetic.
It's good. Q, how you doing in Texas? How's Texas? What you want to talk about Texas?
Shoot, Texas is cold. Surprisingly, I guess it's not Michigan cold. It ain't DC cold. It ain't Connecticut cold, but it's still cold for us.
So it's not cold.
So it's just 60 degrees. Because this Michigan man done moved to Texas and got solved. Right. So 50, 60 degrees.
Exactly.
It's burr for you.
Yep. We didn't even get to 56 today. We were like 51. So, you cry me a river.
And it's still raining in Connecticut, so get off my back. In other ways, we'll talk about how cold and burr it is in Texas in a few. But let's start with some MLB, fellas. If they do one thing in Major League Baseball, they know how to get some money. Juan Soto, according to CBSSports.com, his new team, he doesn't have to go far to get to it. Superstar outfielder agrees on a 15-year contract worth $765 million after a furious bidding war with the New York Yankees, with whom Soto spent his standout 2024 season. Other clubs were involved in the bidding, including the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and the defending world series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, but the Yankees were the fiercest competitors. At $765 million, guys, Soto's reported deal is more than $757 million. The Pirates' payroll since 2025, $678 million. The average MLS franchise, $531 million. That's even bigger than the K. LeBron James' all-time NBA earnings, $450 million. Patrick Mahomes' deal through 2031. $332. Tom Brady's all-time NFL earnings, $225 million. The 2024 NFL salary cap, and $154 million. Tiger Woods' career PGA earnings. Another breakdown of this historic contract has him making $51 million per year, $4.2 million per month, $139,769 per day, $980,769 per week, $5,821 per hour, $97 per minute. It's easy to see why the Mets won the bidding war. They had the highest and biggest offer, and it included no deferred money and a $75 million signing bonus. As well, Soto was given an opt-out after 5 years, one that the Mets could negate only by pushing the total value of the deal past $800 million. The Yankees' final after was quite competitive, reportedly $760 million over 16 years without any deferrals. The New York Post John Heyman reported Monday night that the Yankees were given the chance to match the Mets' offer but declined. On Tuesday, which is today, Heyman's changed his story and said instead that the Yankees had the option to keep bidding, but they had hit their limit. The Yankees also reportedly refused to offer Soto a free suite at Yankee Stadium. Damn, he can't even get a box. As the Mets did in Citi Field, saying that neither Aaron Judge nor Derek Jeter were afforded such a luxury. They did, however, offer him a discount. That's why he walked. Every team has a maximum price, and the Yankees apparently reached theirs before the Mets did. It's not hard to imagine a scenario in which the Yankees just assume Mets owner Steve Cohen, the wealthiest and perhaps the most motivated of MLB owners, had been willing to keep raising the bid until he prevailed. That's sort of what happened, according to the Post. Hey, look, the Yankees lost the World Series, and now they use one of their big dogs, one of their big hitters. Of course, the Mets look like they're winning here. We talked about the Yankees a while back. Is this a continuing of losing? Juan Soto getting paid, fellas. How does it look?
Well, first of all, kudos to him and his agent for doing the thing. When you are at the top of the game or near the top of the game, you got to cash out because you never know. As the good thing. Well, it's not even a good thing because we witnessed this here with Miggy. Players are not going to opt out of those type of contracts, no matter what they're doing. So they're going to be stuck with them. They just hope that they get a World Series or get a nice run. With us, we got the 2 World Series, no rings. We were quite significant for a number of years. But the thing is, you look at the players. First of all, you look at the teams that were competing for them. It's already the large, big markets. So when you're looking at the Yankees, who fell short of winning the World Series because they lacked being a team. They had stars, but they weren't a team. And that's why the Dodgers beat them. It's very interesting to see them being a part of the bidding war, having the ability to go ahead and still bid once the Mets made it and then step away. It speaks volumes of the new way that that the Yankees are doing things, but the Mets are letting you know that, hey, you're not the only team in the Big Apple, and we're coming to play. Because that push that they did last year was unexpected, and now you have another big bat. Now the thing is Alonso is a free agent. What are they going to do? Are they going to re-sign him, or are they moving on from him? So for Soto, it's a win-win. You get the money, you get the $75 million bonus, you get the box, you get the ability to opt out after 5 years. Now I'm interested to see if there's an opt out every year for the rest of those years, or is it just in year 5? But it gives you the option because if they suck, then you can go ahead and bounce and get paid again. But it's a great move for him. You got to strike when the iron is hot with that guaranteed MLB money. But it's going to be very interesting what the Mets do to make sure that they push forward from where they got into the playoffs. So I like it. I don't necessarily love it because, again, it's going to be a different team because I don't necessarily see them with other. Alonso's going to want to get paid, and it's not, even though Cohen is paid, I don't see him going ahead and paying both of them and that. So I think it's a great move for for the Mets and Soto. Yankees fell short again. You got the trophy. They got to figure out what they need to do. They need to do the most un-Yankee-like thing and look and fill their holes as opposed to going after the big names only.
Now that's not gonna happen. The Yankees gonna always still think that they are the desired landing spot for high-profile free agents, which means they're gonna have to pay. They haven't done a well enough job retooling through the farm system, and I think honestly, this may be a blessing in disguise for the Yankees because as well as Soto was for them last year, now you don't have to break the bank for one player, and now you can kind of, to Al's point, patch some of those holes. You can patch those holes with 3 or 4 players with that contract. Some teams that could retool their whole roster, but it's one of those things where they have to realize, okay, where are we going? What do we want to do? We have 2 big bats still on the roster. Carlos, he has to get back. He has to get better. Aaron Judge is going to be Aaron Judge, but Stanton has to get back to who he was the last couple of years. Last year was an off season. I think that hurt. So it's like, okay, we gave up one big bat. We got two, but what are you going to do with it? And just figure out some things with pitching, the utility, and like Al said, fill in them other spots. But it's going to be interesting. It's just, this is the big money in baseball. And it's funny that every time we see someone gets paid like this, people that really don't follow baseball chime in with that, oh, I'm going to make my son a baseball player. It ain't that easy. We've seen plenty of guys, first rounders. I think baseball is the only sport where you could be a number 1 overall pick and not make it to the majors, or not have even get to that type of money because of the journey that it takes to become a major league baseball, not only a major league baseball player, but a very good major league baseball player. And we're seeing that even now with the Tigers, with a couple of their number 1 overall draft picks, that they haven't lived up to the hype. So just because you get your child there does not mean, even if they get drafted, doesn't mean they're going to be that guy in line for that big payday.
I saw that meme online with Mike Tomlin coming through the tunnel, and it's like 5 a.m. going to get my son to the batting cages. Let me ask you this, though, because you bring up a very interesting point. When we talk about American sports and us putting into what we have to do with American sports and making and Americans doing it, is it hard for North America to be able to produce quality MLB players to get past the ranks of how you say it's hard, when we're looking at a league primarily where international players have sort of kind of taken it over? You got Aaron Judge, you look at guys like, Derek Jeter as faces years ago, but then you're also looking at these Hispanic guys and who's getting the contracts and coming from overseas and making it happen. Is it harder because that culture is so good for Americans?
I'll say this. They have the level of desperation that the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Cuba has for baseball is what we used to have for basketball and football. That was our way out of the hood, and that's their way out of poverty. And because no other sport other than soccer, like they still have soccer, but I don't think in those areas is kind of taken to that point. But baseball is a sport that still is highly revered, highly loved, and highly sought after, just like baseball and basketball. Football and basketball is here. So I think that's the difference. They have a level of desperation where this is my ticket to greatness, to just greatness for my family, greatness for my lineage, all that stuff. So they're going to go that extra mile. And even now we're seeing with football and basketball, the sports that we used to chase like that, they're starting to price the inner city out of it because the AAU is starting to be a high level sport if you want to play. So it's like all the sports are kind of getting out the realm for a lot of us in the hood. So it's frustrating, it's disheartening, and it's just, I guess it's a thing to get us to other avenues of excellence academically.
Well, I want to say, Quinn, you kind of mentioned it. Baseball has outpriced a lot of Americans to be able to play at that high level. The desperation, as well as the investment of the MLB into the Caribbean nations regarding baseball. They have those baseball camps that those guys are playing in at 8, 9, 10 years old, signing those future contracts at 16 years old for 10-year contracts that sets their families up for their lifetime. They don't do that here. I'm not going to get on my box, but Q going to know if you start talking about African Americans in MLB, we'll take up the whole show, but I'm not going to do that today. But I'm saying that investment that the MLB has put into those countries has led to the influx of those stars coming from those countries and starring here in Major League Baseball. So that's the major part of it. You still have a lot of homegrown players, but a lot of those players are coming from Texas, California, Florida, those warm states where they can play year round, where they can get the training and everything else. But it's uber expensive. No longer are you seeing guys, hey, this guy is a great player. He's an all-state player. He goes to, this college and he becomes the best player. It's always kind of an angle of how did that happen? He goes to these camps. It's that piece. But I think the investment in MLB, in those programs, in those countries, are the reason why we're getting a lot of these studs in MLB that are not American players. I don't mind it because baseball is my favorite sport, but I want to see that same investment here at home too.
A hard cry. I remember having a conversation with my father a long time ago, and he was talking. And you talk about in the early '50s and late '60s, he's talked about how baseball was his first sport before he even picked up a football, before he even picked up a basketball, and that became something. He learned how to play football. He learned how to play baseball first. He was on little league teams. There was YMCA's, and there's a lot of things that's going on in this country that us as a race don't no longer have in our communities. But YMCA's and the community centers, you were playing baseball. You were playing stickball. It's kind of weird. We're not going to talk about what's going to happen the next 4 years in our country. Hopefully they able to come over here and play. Anyway, one last thing I got to settle in MLB with the Mets. What do they do to build around Soto? Is it championship or bust? Can we do that in Major League Baseball?
It's definitely a championship or bust for them. You know, they got to the playoffs on a surprise run. Fell short, but now, hey, we opened up the bank. It has to be. I haven't looked at the odds for World Series champion, but I'm sure that they have jumped up into at least the top 5 as far as odds for that. So it has to be that, and they may not be done. Again, Cohen has deep pockets, and if they feel that there's another player or a couple of players that are able to do that, then they're gonna go ahead and try to do that. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to MLB and it comes to New York, it's always the battle between the Mets and the Yankees, and the Mets have forever been in second place. They've forever been the bridesmaids. So anytime they can one up, shoot, this may be the World Series for them, outbidding the Yankees.
Well, let's move on to some WNBA, shall we? Golden State's getting another team. It's going down in the Bay. This time with the ladies. The Golden State Valkyries have announced the team's WNBA expansion draft selections presented by CarMax, the first step in building out its inaugural roster ahead of the 2025 WNBA season. The selection announcement took place on Friday the 6th at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art and were announced by Bay Area celebrities Michelle Y. West, E40, and Baron Davis. Golden State had the opportunity to select one player from each of the 12 current WNBA teams. The list of the players selected include Liliana Rupert from the Atlanta Dream, Carla Light from Dallas Wings, Maria Condi from Chicago Sky, Veronica Burton from the Connecticut Sun, Timmy Fagbinley from the Indiana Fever, Kate Martin, Las Vegas Aces. Somebody was a little bit upset about that, but hey, Asia understands. And Stephanie Talbot, Los Angeles Sparks, Cecilia Zandalasini, Minnesota Lynx, Kayla Thornton, New York Liberty, Monique Billings, Phoenix Mercury, and Julie Van Lowe from the Washington Mystics. We're excited to have officially started the journey of building the Golden State Valkyries 2025 team, said General Manager Ohima Zainin. Our goal was to construct a roster that embodies both versatility and depth, bringing a strong mix of leadership, defense, and scoring ability. These players were carefully chosen not only for their skills on the court, but also for their ability to fit into the culture we're working to build here at Golden State. With the expansion draft presented by CarMax again now complete, the Valkyries will continue to build their roster through WNBA free agency in early 2025. Additionally, the team currently owns the 5th, 17th, and 30th selections in the 2025 WNBA draft presented by State Farm. With the year that the WNBA, women's sports in general, has seen, how great is this expansion team? And how great was it to even see a freaking draft for it?
I mean, this is another opportunity to help elevate the league to higher levels. I think one thing I did pay attention to in her very often early on in the season was the lack of roster spaces. So now you kind of help some of those last minute cuts, those players that were late round, first round picks, second round picks, find some way of latching on with the team. Then you add this the Valkyries, along with the Toronto team coming in next year, that gives them some more roster spots. And I think that would definitely be helpful to sustaining the energy from the league. I know we had the back and forth with the whole thing with Caitlin Clark, her detractors, her supporters, but I think this will hopefully be that year where we can start getting back to the game itself. Talk about what happened with the Vegas. Talk about New York. I mean, New York still has not gotten the true love that it deserved, considering that they are the champions. I mean, I guess maybe because, and this goes back to everybody claims they support it, but the WNBA still is not getting the love because no other sport would have seen a champion, especially in a market like New York, go that quiet after the parade and all that stuff. Let this have been the Yankees, let this have been the Knicks, let this have been the Giants. We still will be, this offseason would have happened. We would still be talking about them as a champion. And it just seems like, okay, yeah, they won, on to the next. And it's like, because of them being such a staple of the WNBA, they should have gotten a lot more attention. And hopefully they maybe find some fire once the season starts, as far as getting back into the season or the draft, once they figure out what's going on, I mean, with all of that, to give them their just due. Because it was exciting watching those games. So it's just sad that they didn't get the just due that they deserve.
If we're being honest, the WNBA finals was president that night. Nobody cared about the World Series at all. We were watching the WNBA finals, and that's one of the original teams of the WNBA. I mean, you're looking at Teresa Weatherspoon being able to flex. How you wear your own jersey to the team's whole celebration? How you can? There's nothing more historical than that.
Right.
I don't understand. Plus, on top of that, everybody's still mad about Minnesota. I understand that Stewie and Ionescu had a bad night, but that was even more reason for y'all to win. So I don't understand. That whole she traveled thing. You were 0 for 6 in overtime. That's inexcusable. Al, it's on you.
So it's a great aspect. I feel some kind of way because my Lord. Detroit Shock, we after winning championships back in the day, got shipped off to where they go, Oklahoma,
Tulsa,
and
then got shipped to Dallas.
gone to Dallas, and if Golden State definitely deserves a team, especially for the recent history in Golden State. But sure enough, Detroit does as well. And I understand how it works. I mean, it was here, and after we won the championship, even win the championship, it still struggled with it. Part of it was at the time, they played out at the Palace, Auburn Hills, and that wasn't necessarily a centralized place. So it wasn't, and it wasn't as promoted. WNBA wasn't promoted as well as it is today. But I think it's a great opportunity to expand the WNBA brand. And, you're going out there, you got another team out there on the West Coast. So it allows you to be able to do the different things that you want to do, add more fans, add more intrigue. So it's exciting because, again, the WNBA, especially the playoffs, were extremely intriguing and had a lot of people glued. And it was, to me, it had, which I think to me the best feeling in sports to me is, in basketball at least, is March Madness. And it had that kind of March Madness feel with just, playing in a tournament, multiple games. And I think keeping it with the smaller games in the series is a good thing because it just adds to the immediacy of what needs to happen to be able to win it. So I'm excited for what it is. Again, I'm going to continue to put in my vote for an expansion team, or bring the Shock back as an expansion in that next wave. But I think it's a great aspect to add to it, and provided the teams has balance. It's going to be that parity that you want and the competitiveness that you want in the league, as it is still thriving. They got to thrive a little more and strive to be able to get these salaries up more too, for that equality. So
I named this show properly because the Shock done turned into the Seattle Supersonics. We need a team back in Seattle, okay? I don't understand what's going on. And not to mention, hopefully we get a WNBA finals that goes 7 games. 5 was just way too short. But I also feel the same way you feel, Q. I don't think the Mystics got their fair share. It was the first WNBA championship, and then COVID and then all that just messed up what could have been in the nation's capital as well. It's crazy because you say thriving and striving. As much as they're thriving, they're still trying to strive to get somewhere else. And we're still on this, I feel like this never-ending road to getting that type of respect. I do think one of the things that worked last year too was having characters. I think in the NBA you're able to have characters. You're able to. Everybody hates Christian Laettner, and here in the WNBA it was if they wanted to give Angel the villain role and give Caitlin the angel that came over from college. Then you had the old gun in Asia. Then we didn't know what Diana was going to do. Was she going to hang it up or not? You have all these different characters, and it just made sense. So shout out to them. Shout out to WNBA. Speaking of the WNBA, Caitlin Clark today, Time Magazine 2024 Athlete of the Year. So kudos to her. What's given is earned, what's earned is given. I'm going to let y'all faces do the talking. Episode 140, the Sean Kemp edition. Make sure you drop those comments down below. Make sure you're talking to us. I got Q, I got Al, they're hanging with me. Tristan, he'll be here in a minute. We move on and mosey on down to some NBA. Chris Paul, I still can't believe that man is a San Antonio Texan. Anyways, Chris Paul, according to NBA.com, San Antonio Spurs guard moves to second on the NBA's all-time assist list against the New Orleans Pelicans, the franchise where he started his 20-year career. Shout out to the Charlotte Hornets. We want to get technical, you know what I'm saying? Those little turquoise jerseys with the purple. I need one of those. Most importantly, bring back out the starter jackets. Stop messing with us. The 39-year-old Paul collected his 12,092nd assist on a three-pointer by Victor Wembanyama with 7.6 seconds remaining in the first half of Sunday's game. A 121-116 victory for the Spurs. Paul surpassed Hall of Famer Jason Kidd on the all-time list. John Stockton is the league's career leader with 15,806 assists over 19 seasons, all-time with the Utah Jazz. Paul finished the game with 10 assists, giving him 12,099 in 1,296 games, with still more to come. He's the only player in NBA history with 20,000 career points and 12,000 career assists. Yeah, it's wild. I mean, 5 years ago, I had seen that number, and it's like, man, are you going to play long enough to do that? Seriously? I mean, I remember being a rookie. I said that before looking up in Utah, seeing John Stockton's all-time steals and assist leader. So, yeah, it is kind of crazy. I mean, I'm grateful for the opportunity to still continue to play. He was given a ball, the game ball, and a plaque that has the names of all of his teammates that he's assisted over the years. Chris Paul, second all time. How much does this speak to his career? And if he's saying that he thought that he wasn't going to be here to make the record, maybe we see the last of him this year. Not that I'm waiting for him to hang it up or anything, but you know.
I mean, it speaks to the longevity of his career and ability to kind of still be that steadying pace. I mean, to his point, 3, 4, or 5 years ago, I personally thought he was done. I thought he should have retired, or was off the pastures. He was a shell of him, like of who we had come to know him as. But he's proven, just like a lot of these stars now in the NBA, they're taking care of their bodies, they're investing in their bodies, and it's allowing them to still play the game. Also, because the fact that they play the game the right way. You look at guys like LeBron, you look at guys like him, where they have those small fundamentals that a lot of the younger players take for granted. That was their foundation. So it's easier for them to still find a niche in the league, even at their age, because they're able to do the small things right. Whereas we've seen too many times where guys just want to drive and chuck, sit beyond the three-point line, play ISO ball and shoot it up. Whereas you got a guy that understands the nuances of being a ball distributor. Okay, we're going to find a way for you to still be in the league, even if you may not have the same athleticism, the same quickness, the same lateral movement that you had years ago. And it's like, there's no way 10, 15 years ago, even 20 years ago, a guy like this that at that age would not have been exposed. Guys would have gone at him just on defense, just to show, okay, he ain't got it no more. And we're going to show that he doesn't have it anymore. Whereas now the league doesn't even challenge these type of players anymore on both sides of the court. So that's why he's been able to figure some things out, adjust his game, got with a team like Houston that has a couple pieces. I mean, not Houston, I'm sorry, San Antonio that has a couple pieces where it's like, okay, I don't have to carry this team. I just got to set the table. Set the table, let everybody else do what else. Let the young gun do what he wants to do. And I'm going to just reap all the benefits. I'm going to have a 20 assist game here and there because, hey, just throw it up to Wemby. Set it up to Wemby and set it up to some of these other guys that are coming on for them and let them run the team.
Well, I don't know. People need to learn lessons. I know they don't want to go out as old veterans and people get mad. I know Boston Celtics fans, most importantly, Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce might be a little angry. But, hey, if you learn anything from Big Shot Robert Horry and if you learn anything from Ray Allen, all I need is one good thing I got to do. And if they call my number and I make it, I'm good, baby. Shout out to Chris Paul for his longevity. Al.
So longevity is the key. At the end of the day, when people look back at the numbers and see number 2 on the assist record, it'll stand out. I mean, Chris Paul, due to injury and the lack of success in the playoffs, not getting that ring, he made a business decision. I'm going to sign with the Spurs. I'm going to help Wemby get a little better to help solidify his legacy and go out that way as opposed to chasing rings and failing short. I still just don't know what the end of his legacy will be because he has had 2 different careers in the NBA. And again, I think it could have all changed drastically had that trade not been nullified by the NBA of where his career would have been and his legacy. But I love to see athletes recognize where they are, not over sell themselves and expose themselves to just tragically affect their legacy. Like everybody knew him going there. He is not expected to be the man. He's not expected to dominate, but he's there to help these players to become better players. And then he can kind of just go right off into the sunset whenever he decides. Now, hey, if they're able to do something and he's able to make a little run there, but they're still young, then that may happen and that helps him even more. But it's good to see the longevity, him, still able to be a significant part to his team and a significant part of the NBA. And as one of our Q's and our good friends say, if you can't write the history of a sport without somebody's name in it, then they're extremely significant to that. And you can't rewrite the NBA history books without Chris Paul. So that's where it is. But he bet on himself, made a smart move, went to a safe place. He can just do his thing kind of low. He has a highlight. Oh, he got triple-double today. Oh, okay. And then everybody starts talking about his previous accolades. But we know he's on the down end of his career, but he is definitely doing it the right way for himself and not, trying to be that 6th, 7th, 8th man off the bench, trying to be the quote-unquote second string star on the team. He's just doing his thing and showing veteran leadership, which will bode well depending on what he wants to do after the NBA, whether it's go into coaching or go into the broadcasting booth.
Well, we know he can do anything with him being the face of the league for so long in an NBA PA. And, it's just one of those things, especially in a league where point guards are shooting guards now. They're looking to shoot first. Chris Paul has remained standard to the pass and dime thing. I'm still a point guard. That's what my job is to do. Something crazy, in our last segment, that WNBA segment, something every day, Al, because you're a teacher. I want to let you know how much I really practiced all those names before I got on here. It didn't work. You know how you practice the sentence before you called on just in case the teacher got to ask you to read? I had it, but I ain't have it. But, I'm a work in progress. I'm still learning my cadence after all these years. Anyways, we move on to college football, people. I thought he'd make it back on here by now. Anyways, the college football final 12-team CFP bracket is set. Number 1, Oregon Ducks take top seed in CFP. First round. Number 12, Clemson versus number 5, Texas. Shout out to Matthew McConaughey, okay? Winner of that game takes on number 4, Arizona State in the quarterfinals. Number 9, Tennessee versus number 8, Ohio State Buckeyes. Winner of that game takes on them number 1 Ducks in the quarterfinals. Number 11, the big surprise in this one, SMU go to Penn State. Number 6, they play them. We are, if that's what y'all about. I haven't seen them there in a while. Shout out to LeVar Arrington. He's finally coming back around Commander's Land. He ain't been there a while. It's good to see you. Anyways, winner of that take on number 3, Boise State in the quarterfinals. And then number 10, Indiana, go to see the Irish. Notre Dame, number 7. Winner of that takes on the Dogs. Georgia, very much noticeably not in this bracket. Roll Tide. They not rolling into the CFP. Get it? Pun intended. They're rolling. I'm not damn cheesy. Anyways, Alabama is not there. Alabama Athletic Director Greg Birdie said Sunday that he would need to assess his non-conference scheduling philosophy moving forward after the Crimson Tide were the 12-team CFP playoffs field. In a post on X, he says he was disappointed with the outcome and acknowledged the losses to 500 teams Vanderbilt and Oklahoma as the 2 teams in particular, the games that we did not have good performances in as well as we should have. But he also added that non-conference scheduling is an area that have to be evaluated. We have said we would need to see how strength of schedule will be evaluated by the CFP. With the outcome, we will need to assess how many P4 non-conference games make sense in the future to put us in the best position to participate in the CFP. That is not good for college football. Alabama played only one Power 4 non-conference game this year, 42-10 win at Wisconsin. But next year, the Crimson Tide have 2 Power 4 non-conference games at Florida State to open the season August 30th, and they return home against Wisconsin on September 13th. Alabama coach Kalen DeBoer told reporters on Sunday night as well that his team wants to play in the best games. And I understand how it didn't feel like that definitely wasn't rewarded with our schedule and the wins we had. I know we've got some higher profile games against programs that traditionally have been very successful. We want to be a part of that. We want that to happen. That's the exciting thing about college football, is being in as many big games as possible. We don't want to be back down to that. We want to be a part of it, and that hopefully will be rewarded down the road. I'm going to let you choose what road you want to take. Do you want to talk about this bracket, or do you want to go with Alabama first?
Let's talk about Alabama first. The Alabama bias has turned into, do I want to say it this way? Yes, privilege.
This is a family show, all right?
It's turned into privilege. You lose 3 games, 2 to teams that you had no business losing to, Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, and you still thought you were going to get in like you did the other year when you snuck in because of who lost. The thing is you all have been an inconsistent team, a middle of a road team. You can't say because of the conference that we played in that we're better than teams that had 1 loss or 2 losses in certain situations. It just is what it is. Yeah, you can expect to win every time, but that doesn't mean that you're going to win every time. You're going to get in the game, get in the dance. You got to show up when it's time to show up. It was no reason you should lose to Vanderbilt. You can't call it a trap game. That should have been a warm-up game for the next game. That was totally up to you all. So the mentality that they have, we have to assess our non-schedule. Your non-conference schedule is not what got you out of the playoff. It is losing 3 games in conference and 2 to subpar teams. Period. That's it. So the thing is get over it. Now I will add one thing, which has absolutely nothing to do to the doggone playoffs, is I thought that the bowl committees were like, oh, you know what? We're gonna go ahead and make this matchup for the two teams that were 13 and 14 and have Alabama play Miami. No. They didn't want to do that. They want to go ahead and try to create this matchup, which of course I accept every challenge to matchup, but my Michigan Wolverines are going to face the Roll Tide, and we know how our season is, but we know our season ended up. We know how we played against Ohio State. Go Blue. But, we're going to go ahead and battle against the Crimson Tide. Again, this will be a litmus test in the eyes of fans, especially SEC fans, of where they should be. They beat Michigan. They should do this. Michigan is a 75 team. I own that. That's my team. This your team? Yeah, this is my team. Oh, it's over there. Yeah, that's my team. But at the end of the day, they should not have been in the playoffs. It doesn't matter what you say. SMU deserved it. Now, if SMU got blown out by Clemson, then maybe you have a conversation. But they didn't. They should have gone to overtime had it been for a special teams blunder and then a poor tackling on the only play of that drive that led to the game-winning field goal. So at the end of the day, Alabama, cry me a river, get you some tissue, and get ready for the open, and we'll see you.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to make mine quick. 2 points. One about the bowl, other bowl games. They need to do away with the bowl tie-ins now because of the 12-team playoff. We need to just do away with the bowl tie-ins and get the best competitive matchups outside of everything else. So that way we could have had Alabama versus Miami or even Alabama versus Colorado. That would have been a great matchup just for nostalgia and the conversation piece. But to have Colorado playing a team within its own conference, make it make sense. So I'm still confused about that. But back to Alabama. Now, if Alabama would have lost to Texas A&M, even Ole Miss, I can see those three losses kind of be like, okay, these are ranked teams. These are better teams. These are above average teams that are in our competitive league. But you lost to a team in Vanderbilt who has been the bottom rung of the SEC for as long as we've been alive. And you lost to Oklahoma, who has been struggling all season. And not only did you lose to them, you got blown out. You look like a substandard team against them. So you only have yourself to blame for how everything played out. And to Al's point, the whole thing about the scheduling of the non-conference, no, you play USF, Western Kentucky, Mercer, and Wisconsin. You don't need to touch that schedule. I mean, I guess if they want to say, oh, we're not going to schedule hard teams, but even then, you can schedule whoever you want. Just don't lose to bad teams.
Right. And I would
Which
say
will also see that Alabama thinks they're better than they are. Anyway, go ahead.
But that's like Al said, that's the Bama bias.
It's the Bama bias, and even in the selection show, you had people buying like, oh well, the strength of schedule. Strength of schedule has nothing to do. At the end of the day, and somebody had the gall to say it. I want to say it was Mr. Saban that wins we become so biased by wins. That's what it's all about, winning and losing. You can't say, well, I had the toughest schedule, but I had 4 losses, so I deserve to get in. No, you got to win the games, clown. So,
I mean, if that's the case, Michigan should be in.
Exactly.
Who did they lose to? They
Michigan
lost
had
to
the
Indiana.
schedule. They had the toughest
Texas,
schedule in college football.
Oregon, Illinois, who was ranked at the time. Only if they wouldn't have lost to Washington and went 8-4, then they could say, oh, all our losses were to top 15 teams. Right. We should be in there. So come on, miss me with that. Yeah. Miss me with that. Don't lose games that you're not supposed to, and you'll have an argument. And the strength of schedule only comes into play when you're doing comparable records. You got a 9-2 team on here and a 9-2 team on here. Now you look at the strength of schedule. But if you got a 1-loss regular season team and a 3-loss, I don't care what the strength of schedule is. You shouldn't, especially if you lost to bad teams, that 1-loss team is always going to take precedent. Miss me with that.
Are we already seeing the coldness of the after Saban era?
Yep.
In Alabama? Is this what this is?
Oh, yeah. And I think this is going to be a sign as we move further away from his type of players. The fans in Tuscaloosa are going to realize how great they really had it for them years under Saban, because now you add that into the whole litany with the transfer portal being free agency and just looking at the roster movements that's going to happen. You can't just say, "Hey, we're Bama, come play for us." No, I can go play for Miami and get paid $500,000, or I can go to this other school, make $100,000 here, go to another school, make another $100,000 here, and I'm good. Whereas in 10, 15, and I think that's what's hurting some of Ohio State. Like years ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago, all you had to do was show up into a kid's living room and say, and put that Bama hat down there, put that Ohio State hat, and it's like, ooh. Now it's like, okay, what you gonna do with it? Show me the money. Show me the money, or what's the depth chart look like? What can you do for me besides that? And now these schools are finding it harder, and that's what made it so laughable when in the aftermath of the Ohio State Michigan game, people were asking for Urban Meyer to come back. Urban don't want to step back into this mess of NIL and dealing with the backdoor hustling the players. All right, you had a monopoly on it because you were one of the few teams doing it under the table. But now that it's out in the open, you might not have the same success. I mean, Channing Crowder even called them out, talking about that Florida team that he played on with Chris Leak was all Ron Zook's players. And when he had to start bringing in his own players, things kind of dissolved and he didn't have that mystique. And so it's like, okay, what you think is going to happen now when people aren't impressed with the lure, just the strict lure of Ohio State?
Where's the upset? Can SMU do it?
I would have said yes if this was a neutral site game, but because it's a whiteout and the mystique of that game in Happy Valley in December. I mean, yeah, sure, you have players on both sides that have never played in that weather, but I think it being a home game for Penn State, that first round game, those first round games is where the home field advantage is going to play a for teams that are evenly matched. There's a slight differentiation between the two teams. That home field advantage is going to make up for it. And I think that's where Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State are going to all have that advantage, where normally if you were playing this game in Glendale, Arizona, we may have a Boise type upset. But because I think they're in Happy Valley and the comfort of their home, their routine, I think Penn State is going to pull it out.
Al, any words?
Well, my upset, I'm calling it the Battle of Indiana. Indiana, I'm basing off their coach. Coach is ballsy. I like him. He's ballsy.
I mean, it takes one to know one if we're talking about what y'all coaching.
But I like his mantra and how he approaches his team with his team. Like he was it shouldn't even be a question. We should be hosting one of the games. So he's going to motivate his players with that chip on their shoulder. Like, we should be playing at home. They're doubting us. We're the underdog type thing. And their offense, when it's rolling, is one of the best in the country. And it could be a shootout. Notre Dame is known to make mistakes. Now, granted, Notre Dame is kind of skated on past after that early loss and just kind of floated on. You still don't know what Notre Dame is, because who is Notre Dame really beating? Exactly. The Crickets.
Army.
I'm about to say the Army.
Right. So the thing is that's my upset. The first round games of Indiana upsetting Notre Dame, and I just see that being much closer than what people think. And Indiana is very creative offensively, and I see them doing some things to kind of shock the Irish and not let the Irish magic happen.
Speaking of magic and speaking of an effect, you guys probably already there. I'm coming up there. I'm at the age where I can look at somebody and say, damn, I remember when your mama had them. Shador Sanders, according to Newsweek, Deion Sanders' son is making it. Deion is making it clear to the world that he wants his son Shador and Shiloh to go into the NFL, and it's not one of the teams he played for. A video has emerged of a pop-up event before Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas this past February, where Sanders shared the stage with newly hired Las Vegas Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce. I don't know. We might not even know if Antonio Pierce is still going to be with the Raiders. However, during the event, Sanders took the microphone and praised Pierce for his new role. He then added that he would love to see both his sons Shador and Shiloh play for the Raiders in the future. You are truly the best, Deion told the Raiders head coach. Now I just need you to do one thing. I need you to draft those Sanders boys. Shador is currently the betting favorite to be the first overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. As of now, if the season ended, the 2-10 Las Vegas Raiders would hold the number 2 pick, and it seemed that Deion believes the Raiders would be an ideal landing spot for his son. The team is in desperate need of a franchise quarterback, and Shador is among the top prospects alongside Cam Ward of Miami. The New York Giants are also in the mix, as they could end up with the 2nd overall pick as well. He said he don't want him to go there. Where does Shador land?
Well, Deion needs to be very careful with trying to script out where he is. Like, you can do that as a player, like he did, like telling Detroit, "Don't draft me because I'm not coming there." And if the the leadership decides not to make that move, but you have 2 sons, so the odds of them being available, what's going to prevent another team from drafting them? You're gonna have them sit out. You're gonna have them pull out the draft. You can't do that to your sons. I don't think he's trying to leverage this to himself going to the Raiders, but I think he's trying to leverage it where he thinks this is a good situation. Now, I don't necessarily think it's the best situation, but if you think your son is the number 1 quarterback coming out and you're looking at the options, I think it's a push between the Giants and the Raiders. The Raiders have that potential of having that mentality because of some of the players that they have on their team, but they still have a lot of foundational things they need to put in together. So Deion wanting to make this as the option for his sons to go through. As a father, you got to do what you got to do. I struggle with this with LeBron and Bronny of dads kind of pushing the envelope and trying to use their influence to be able to do things. But at the end of the day, every father does that all the time with their kids, to try to utilize the influence to give their child the best opportunity. So I'm not really upset with that. I just don't think that's necessarily the best fit because you're also looking at the culture of the team and, what does that make up? What are you putting your sons into when they're feeling like you got this golden NFL spoon that you've been handed? They were told to pick you, and now you're on this team, and now you're the leader of us. How are you going to lead? Now, again, it's all about what you do on the field, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to go out scripted like Prime thinks it's going to be.
Hell, you can pardon your son now. Hey, if I'm Joe, get out of there, Hunter, as fast as you can, especially if you're going to my arch nemesis. I don't know what he's going to do to you if I don't get him now. But, I mean, we had David Aldridge on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he did note that he doesn't know Bronny, but he hopes that this is what Bronny wants. So hopefully somewhere that there was a conversation between him and LeBron, and he said, "This is what I want to do, Dad." Because LeBron has already said he wanted to play with his son. We don't know if Bronny wants to play with his dad. And it looks good, but let's see what happens. Q, in true fashion of nepotism, as we're seeing it, how good is it to see it, especially with our faces on it? But how detrimental can it be to the game? Whereas you're looking at last year, and you're looking at Marvin Harrison Jr. You're looking at Frank Gore Jr. You're looking at all these guys whose sons are now part of this league.
It's a good thing, honestly. It's good to see players that we grew up watching, seeing their sons now in the league. I think to Al's point, the whole trying to navigate and strong arm your son's way into a certain team. I'm not sure how that can work, because now you got to deal with grown men. And now you're sending your son into that locker room with them looking at, okay, are you here because we really wanted you, or because Deion kind of finagled some backdoor conversations. So it's like, and the minute that things don't go the way they expect, how quickly are they going to turn from him? I mean, as far as the respect and the interaction within that locker room. I mean, we're seeing it somewhat now, even with Chicago and Caleb Williams. There's been some murmuring and some conversation from some players. Some players like him, how he handles things. Other players have been kind of despondent. We still don't know the full story about what happened with DJ Moore walking off the field during the middle of a play. I mean, yeah, sure, he could say it was injuries, but that optic still looks bad. I mean, we got another player walking off the field while the game is still going on to talk about, but the optics look bad, and you don't want to put your son in that situation. And that's Shador. Now, Shiloh, he just better be glad to get drafted anyway. Because, I mean, this dude he is the true epitome of a Nepo baby. Because he's riding the coattail no matter. He should be, if they call his name, them first 2 days, he should be happy. That should be it. Because he did not play like a first round pick. He did not play like a second round pick. He barely played like, unless he tests well. I mean, maybe you see him in the third round. But that's definitely him and Deion Jr. Those the Nepo babies. Whereas Shador, his talent has kind of got him. The doors were opened by Deion, but his talent helped him step through that door. And I think that's the one thing that he should be able to say, okay, hey, my resume says this. So don't just
he says you ain't seen nobody like me. He's already saying it.
Yeah. I mean, but everybody thinks that. And I think with quarterbacks are, we ain't seen one till we seen one. We thought we hadn't seen. Everybody want to act like Caleb Williams is something different. Like, we seen this before. Mm-hmm. So don't be shocked when we're not as wild by you, because of you're still a quarterback. You're still a young quarterback that has to grow and has to take his lumps and know how to throw the ball away, know when to take what you can from the team. And I think that's my biggest question coming out of Colorado. Everybody wants to look at the offensive line woes, but how many of those sacks, how many of those bad situations was him just trying to make a play instead of getting rid of the ball, living to see another day, and putting it in a situation, instead of being 2nd and 15, now you're 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7, where you're in a comfortable place where you can still rely on the run game, the short passing game, and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. And everybody thinks, the whole conversation with Deion going to the pros, I don't see it happening, because his attitude isn't going to, he's more of a father figure, and that ain't going to run. That doesn't work too well for the
That's not going to work with grown men.
Yeah, for the old guard that's still in the league.
Crazy thing about it is, and then Shador had the nerve to blame the offensive line and call him out. You can't do that as a quarterback. If you want to be honest when we come to this whole nepotism thing, wait till y'all see what Bryce James is going to do. That's the guy. I hope he goes to college and has a full career and doesn't allow himself to get caught up into that. And Carmelo's son is going to be nasty. I'm sorry. Y'all ain't paying attention to him enough. To y'all's point, me and Tristan talked about this a couple of weeks ago about quarterbacks. There aren't any Eli Mannings anymore. There's no LeBron James in the NFL anymore. There's not, we know you're a man, you're a man among men. We know that you're not a boy. Whereas we're looking at Anthony Richardson, we're looking at Caleb Williams. We're lucky in DC with Jaden Daniels, but these guys are expected to play and be great, and they haven't even had a chance to watch and look. Sometimes you got to be the better man, and this is how you get Sam Darnold. This is how you get Geno Smith. You let them sit and you let them watch. Whereas you're putting these guys straight in the league, expecting this big turnaround. These fans want it so quick, and then you're mad and then you're calling him a bust when you ain't even giving him a chance to adjust to the league. I think it has everything to do with the league, especially if you become a Bear. Caleb, I don't know what the hell you were deciding to do, but it's on you. Heisman consideration. The votes are in, fellas. Oregon quarterback Dylan Gabriel, 3,558 total yards, 28 passing touchdowns. Number 2, Colorado cornerback and wide receiver Travis Hunter, 1,152 receiving yards, 4 interceptions. 3, Boise State's running back Ashton Gentry, 2,497 rushing yards, 29 rushing TDs. It's nice to see you back in the conversation. Miami quarterback Cam Ward, 4,123 passing yards, 336 passing touchdowns. You want me to ask you who gets here? You just want to wait to see who you deserved it.
Well, we know there's a quarterback bias with the Heisman.
I mean, shoot, we could talk about the MVP if we want to give technical.
Right.
Because if Saquon don't win it, what the hell?
All right. So with that, if I had a vote, and this has changed, my vote has changed over the last couple of weeks. Again, the hype trains were going crazy over different things, but I would say that Travis, based on just number one, this dude is a monster when it comes to conditioning, playing the number of plays that he's playing, almost every down, and even sometimes special teams, and his stats. I go back to the last two-way player, Charles Woodson, to win it, and Charles Woodson had touchdowns. He had punt returns. He didn't have as many because he didn't play wide receiver as much as Travis does. But, I think if people were wavering that last game, even though it wasn't, necessarily against the best opponent, he dominated on both sides. You had 3 touchdowns, you had interceptions, or 2 interceptions. I mean, you basically this is my Heisman moment. When you look at Heisman and the trophy winners, you look for Heisman moments. Now, granted, they didn't necessarily have the season that they wanted. Now, they were in the conversation until late in the season. But I just think when you talk about the most dynamic player, not the best player on the best team, but the most dynamic player in college football, I think that is Travis. And my cousin D is watching, dude. I did change my mind. I was not on the train before, but just looking at the totality. And I always wait until the end. You can't wait until, in the middle of the season. I want to see the full result. And granted, his stats are not, going to supersede the quarterback stats or even running back stats. But when you look at the balance of what he's done, that he's been able to dominate on some level, high level at 2 positions, is mind-boggling. Especially considering his stature, because he's not a big guy, but he is just a remarkable athlete. So again, that would be my vote if I vote. So let me cast my vote.
You got one vote. Are you voting, Q?
I'm a vote, but I'm about to break the internet with this one. Al brought up his initial comment was about this being a quarterback award. We have, under normal circumstances, when we haven't had a quarterback that stood out on a good team, we will be in contention for Genty and Travis. But you have statistically one of the better quarterbacks out there on the best team. Why isn't Dylan Gabriel getting more recognition for that? It sucks because everybody wants to look at what Travis has done, and it's an anomaly. But when you look at, we can't sit here and lie and say this isn't partly a team record recognition as well. But you have the best player on the best team that put up 3,500 yards, 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and has led Oregon on the precipice of winning its first national championship.
Well, I guess that goes into the way, is the MVP the most valuable player? Is it personal, or is it the player that takes his team to the next height? You get what I'm saying? No matter the record, we still don't know in any sport what that is. Russell Westbrook record.
And that's why I'm going with the wild card situation of giving it to the best player on the best team, because he's the guy that has put that team on his back and helped them win games. Even, they've had a lot of moments. And that's why I say it would not surprise me if he gets a lot more votes than what we expect, and he may finish second. So that's why I brought him up, because there's something about this that just doesn't, like, everybody's talking about everybody else but him. And
So why
that's
can't
why
it be him?
why not? When we've
Yes,
seen the award go to the best player on the best team, even when we've had other people maybe deserve the recognition because their stats have been astronomical. But think back when Lamar won the Heisman. That was because it was a down year. Was he the best player on the best team? No, but because he was far and above better than every other, like, the players on the best team did not have statistically great seasons. They weren't outstanding. When you look at the moments where we had that outlier, I mean, even Peyton, he was. So that's what put him up there. But now we have a guy that has put up the numbers, put up the stats, and is on the precipice of winning the national championship. It would not surprise me if he has a little bit more recognition than what we expect. Now, I say all that. If I had a vote, I'm gonna vote for Travis. But don't be surprised if Dylan takes the trophy.
He better win it all. Because if either way, if he wins it all and doesn't get it, it would suck. If he got it and doesn't, if he wins it and doesn't get it, it's either way. Episode 140, the Sean Kemp edition. Pointing at you, Tristan. I think it's just safe to say that we missed you tonight. But
Definitely.
Q and Al, I care about them more anyways. Anyways, NFL. I'm joking. It's a joke. Come on, it's like the Simpsons in Cowboy Land. Come on, it's a joke. Have a donut, okay? Anyway,
he gonna pull the plug from behind the scenes on you.
You better not call. You better call me. Come on now, don't mess around. Anyways, NFL. Let's move to the last bit. I thought that I was going to start from Sunday up, but I got to start from yesterday down. Bengals 27, Cowboys 20. Bengals, about damn time you end a 3-game losing streak. Joe Burrow, 33 out of 44, 369 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw a pick. Jamar Chase, 14 receptions, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. I will say this. It's good to see them getting a win in prime time because this year I'm just not used to it. 2, if you had fantasy picks, there was a lot of games this week. Jamar Chase, Khalil Shakir, Puka Nacua, he got it for you. Hell, Justin Jefferson and Addison alone help you out. If you needed some aboves and unders, oh man, these receivers gave it to you this week. Burrow threw a tie-breaking 40-yard touchdown pass to Jamar Chase. Man, Bland wasn't nowhere near him. That was a touchdown. After Dallas botched a block punt to give the ball back to Cincinnati in the final 2 minutes and the Bengals beat the Cowboys, AO tried to field the bouncing ball when leaving it alone would have been giving it back to Dallas as a possession. He should have just left it alone. However, we can say that that's the headline but the real headline is, understandably, Michael Parsons he's sitting on the bench. He's a defensive guy. He's thinking this game is over. You know what I'm saying? All we got to do is get the ball. Game is over. In strange normalness of what happens in Arlington, because they can't win one at home. So I don't know why they think they can win one at home. In strangeness, we got the kick that was. He touched the ball. Cincinnati recovers. Jamar and Joe Burrow do what they're known for doing. And he's visibly upset for valid reasons on this bench. I'm not saying that his reasons weren't valid. But then we see the camera slide over and time hasn't even expired from the clock yet. And Michael Parsons is leaving the field. He takes accountability. You like to believe you can pull that game. That hurts. At the end of the day, whatever it takes for me to just continue to be a Cowboy until I retire, that's what I'm going to do. If you want my personal opinion, you're sitting, it starts from the head up. So every chance they turn around, they're going to go to Jerry Jones disgruntled up there looking upset because they're not winning. This is a team that's not used to losing, obviously. And this season has astronomically took them to heights that they didn't even know they were going to be taken to. And Jerry Jones is up there looking disgruntled and crying. CeeDee Lamb had an episode a couple of weeks ago, and he had to calm down. I, for one, used to be looking at days where Dez Bryant used to be called out for stuff like this as a Dallas Cowboy. And everybody was trying to figure out the difference between passion and the difference between wanting what you want from the team versus some things are just not professional. Michael Parsons, you are not only one of the faces of this team, you're the leader of this defense. How does it look with you walking? First of all, you're a Dallas Cowboy, so everything you do, somebody's going to talk about. 2, this is prime time. The world is watching this nationally televised game where you think that ESPN's beautiful cameras are going to watch you walking out of this stadium. I don't know who wasn't there to stop him from walking off the field. They just let him go. We can talk about the podcast and the inability to be in player mind. But if we talk about the podcast wasn't mattering when you were winning last year. That was just something you did extracurricular. Hell, Travis Kelce and his brother had a podcast during the season. We got to talk about the 49ers are doing what we expect them to do, but Devo and Kittle sit down almost every week, okay? So for all you Cowboys fans saying that he should be more involved with playing football and sacks, let's be real. These teams know that you had a lot of guys go down this season. Unfortunately, another big loss to that defense. Cowboys linebacker DeMarvion Overshown tore his ACL, his MCL, and his PCL in his right knee. He will be out for the rest of the season. So we can say that this defense has been down, which it has been. We can also say you need to get more sacks. But let's be real. These offensive lines know who you are now. And the Cowboys have not done nothing to actually do what has led you to become a star in this league. They took all that away from you. They're not even playing to your strengths. So if there's anybody that should be mad at this, it's a team effort, but you made it personal. Now we got to look at you. Now we got to wonder. I mean, now you're young, we get it. But you can't do that, brother. Fellas, it's on you. I've said my piece.
Being down here in Dallas, it's been hilarious. I've heard some of everything today in the aftermath of that game, ranging from, oh, they shouldn't have blocked the punt, to just they are blaming the players for blocking the punt, to having a conversation on how they should have blocked the punt, one hand versus the diamond hand, all this stuff. I'm like, it was an unforeseen situation where I didn't realize what side of the field it was on, but someone brought it to the attention. Ayo, if this was on the Dallas sidelines, there's someone yelling, get away, get away. But all you see is the ball coming towards you. So you don't know if it was touched. You don't know who touched it. So you're trying to make a play. And I tell my kids that play basketball, I would rather you make a play than sit there and just assume that it's going to happen. So he went to go make the play. He just didn't hold onto the ball. So you can't blame him for being aggressive. It's just one of those situations where it just didn't work out for them. And it's just one of them things where I think when it rains, it pours down here when it comes to the Cowboys and how they're being seen and how they're being viewed from Jerry Meddlesome, the dead man walking, and Mike McCarthy, the
you really think he's going to lose his job this year? That might be the most secure job in the NFL.
And just the whole issue, the lack of players, going back to the Overshown injury, they're saying he's going to miss 25 too because of the lateness of the injury and the severity of the injury. They're already saying that he's going to miss the rest of the season plus all of next season. And this is already a guy that missed time early on in his rookie season because of injury. So it has to be devastating for a guy that showed a lot of promise as a linebacker at a position that they need help. I mean, they had some older guys, and it's like I think that's the problem with the Cowboys. They don't know when to move on from certain guys, and they overinvest in others because the offensive line needs to overhaul now because you got a couple of guys that are long in the tooth. You still have never found the second receiver to complement CD Lamb. Your inconsistency at the running back position. Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs have been good in spots, but Diggs is a gambler. And Diggs is a guy that good teams know how to play off of. When we know how to bait and switch with him. So it's just one of those, and that's why I think they really need to make that move from McCarthy. But who are they going to bring in that's going to understand the whole essence of dealing with Jerry? And I think that's the biggest thing. It's not the X's and O's and dealing with the players. Who is going to want to deal with Jerry, the GM, the owner, and the person that has the biggest mouth in the DFW?
That's a lot of CLs that he broke, and when he went down, it was like I was with Troy Buck. Oh no, because that's not who you want to see. That's not who you want to see go down. This is another team that did nothing in free agency, did nothing over this before the season. You always think everything's intact with them. Ow. Another heart wrencher. At this point, they need Jesus to come down and help them get in the playoff. I don't know what's going to happen. But Michael Parsons can't do that, can he?
He cannot. That's what the youngsters call crashing out. I think it was the totality. It was the totality of the season and how they have been playing better in recent weeks. And they were like, mentally, when you're playing better and you have this chance that we can, maybe sneak into the playoffs because we're playing better. And we got these division games coming up. This game, that was a huge loss for them, for them. And I think it was as hard as he worked to get back from his injury, as hard as he works day in, day out. It was just like the frustration, like I'm pouring all this in and this fluke play has put us in a situation that, basically the season is over. And
he was very gassed in this game towards the end of this game.
And, and that plays a part in it. It has nothing to do with the podcast. You got, players, you got the St. Brown brothers do podcasts every week. You got
players. Please stop finding excuses.
So the thing is, just like big trash talking is big in the Big D, so it's big excuses when they lose. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, he owns up to it. He only has to prove himself to the people in that locker room and the people that write his checks. If they understand where he is because they're all at the same spot, then they can do that and move on from that. But it's not up to us to determine where that is. It's that locker room and what he does going forward. Of course, people are going to always try to throw that back up in his face. He said he wants to be a Cowboy for life. This is part of being a Cowboy for life. This is the thin part of being a Cowboy when you out there trying to wrangle some cattle and the cattle real thin and you ain't gonna feed the family. So what you gonna do now? We gotta go find some more cattle. So he got to figure it out as the leader of that defense and be prepared for what should be a full remodel of that Dallas team to get them back to where they are. Because that window with that current roster, how it was built, is definitely closing. Or it may have already closed. So he needs to understand that it may look different because if you don't have those assets, at your left and your right, you can't do what you do because now they can double team you and not having to worry about other things. And that linebacking core is depleted. So now, we're just going to chip him to death and make him have to do something. We're going to make him move all over and make him be gassed like he was because, that's all they got,
Yeah. Hey, look. Hey, maybe this is a home victory. You got to find somewhere of positivity. The kicker, his girlfriend is a Cowboys cheerleader. So, the Bengals kicker, who was, kind of third string in it. His girlfriend's a Cowboy cheerleader, and she got a home win, okay? She got something to cheer about. She was letting it known that she was cheering for him. Shout out to the cheerleader also, the sister, I forget her name, excuse me. Alopecia on you is beautiful because your face card does not decline, girl. We as women who don't understand that, do not understand how blessed we are to have hair and to have it and be able to have different hairstyles and do whatever. But regardless of what you think a normal woman's supposed to look like, you are beautiful. That was beautiful. Let's move on, shall we? The Lions won again. The Lions won again. I am a fan of that song. Tristan, if you're listening, you keep saying that you're going to give me a beat. We need one word. We could be millionaires. You're the one that's flubbing this, okay? I don't know what's going on, but whoever the hell made that up, you're a star, okay? The Lions, the Packers, and the Vikings. Oh, not to mention, if we go back to AO, he just came off an injured reserve. That's not the kind of play you want to go and do coming back off an injured reserve. The Lions, the Packers, and the Vikings are 28-3, fellas, against the rest of the league. Dan Campbell gamble, the soup that gambles, okay? He pays off again. Detroit went for it on 4th down for a 5th time to set up Jake Bates. 35-yard field goal as time expired. Lions clinch a playoff spot 34-31 over the Green Bay Packers. Well, they lost this one. You know what I'm saying? Jared Goff, 32-41, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Tim Patrick, if you're looking for me to say Amon-Ra, if you're looking for me to say Laporta, we're talking about next man up. They had very quiet games. But, hey, this is what you do. You plug in the next option. Tim Patrick, 6 receptions, 43 yards, 2 touchdowns. David Montgomery, 14 carries, 51 yards, 1 touchdown. Jordan Love, 12 of 20, 206 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 carries, 23 yards on the ground. Josh Jacobs, 18 carries for 66 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Christian Watson, 4 receptions of 114 yards. We always go back to last year and the gamble of last year. You got to play who you are, how you are, and everybody's talking about going for it instead of kicking the field goal. I can't be who I'm not. That's not who we've been. The gamble didn't work last year. We roll into this year. We keep the same mantra, and Dan Campbell is obviously telling you guys that that's what he's going to do. He's not going to change. Somebody, fellas, had some very interesting comments on Dan Campbell if you were watching the news today. Give me Dan Campbell on the field with me, but don't put Dan Campbell on the sideline. Says the Lions are top dogs. They need to start playing like it, start coaching like it. He talks about Dan Campbell's emotional aspect. Why not just give the ball to the other team and let them mess up and turn it around? 4th and 1 didn't work at one point. That's why you were in the position to have to do what you did last game, because it didn't work, and then you do it again. Didn't learn from last year. Dan Campbell didn't learn from last year. Let the other team make mistakes. This was Teddy Bruschi. He had some questionable comments about, the Commanders and how we can't be 500 teams and how he's not in it with us. Okay, all right. But Teddy Bruschi had a lot to say about Dan Campbell and the gambles.
Yeah. So first of all, just so you know, the Lions won again. Is D-Mac Cash is the artist. As a matter of fact, I saw him at Ford Field a couple weeks ago. But that's my anthem. I play that every time I do the highlights. But so let's talk a little bit about.
We also got to shout out your best friend, Quinn, because Kelvin getting out that car every time the Lions win again.
With the one thing that the casual fan who isn't connected to where the Lions are as a team, I think the total count is 13 defensive players on the IR. Their game plan was that the offense was going to have to win the game. That was the game plan. I mean, we're depleted at linebacker. We're depleted at D-line, and McNeil had to come out the game with concussion protocol. So we had a game of
attrition,
basically, that we had to will that game. And with that being a division game, with that being a game that was a highly emotional game, a chippy game, I kind of like how this rivalry with Green Bay is kind of going. It's chippy, it's trash talky. Very interesting that a tight end is talking trash in that, but it's it had that feel like we have to win this game. Like the defense was gashed. They played much better in the first half, but again, you have guys out there. They had to play a vanilla defense. I got to give it up to Aaron, Glenn, with how he had to put his players in position to make plays to be able to allow your offense to be able to win the game. I mean, that's what happened. Now, here's the thing. You know, everyone feels that they're the smartest person in the room. There's a theory regarding Dan Campbell going for it at the 30-yard line at the time when he did. At the time, I believe there were 3 points. He went for it at that time. I believe it's 8 minutes as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's somewhere around that time. Going for it continues your drive with the lead. You be able to drive again. The game plan is to score. Not getting it extends it, gives them 30. Ideally, they're going to get a touchdown or a field goal. It should allow you to be able to have more possessions than the other team at the game, which, if you look at it, the Lions had 3 possessions. Green Bay had 2. Now, again, do things have to work out in your favor for that to happen? Of course they do. But you know your team, you know your team's strengths, you know coming off of the Thanksgiving game, the emotion of that game, going into another Thursday game. You know, you didn't get that extra break that you normally get from a Thursday game. It was highly emotional. We had to focus. You had players going out left and right. You had to make the play. I told you I always ride with Dan Campbell all day long. Again, people last year, but the difference is I want to let people understand. Last year, the difference why he gambled so much is because he did not have trust in the kicker. That plays a huge part. Whereas now we have Bates. Bates is a clutch kicker. He has a leg. He's knocked down 2 game-winning field goals in his rookie season. He's done the thing. The issue is that people don't understand because they don't agree with it. It's not for you to agree. You're a fan. The players have bought in. There's nobody on that offensive line when they call and say we're going for it on 4th down that does not believe that we're going to get that first down. They would have went 5 for 5 had Goff not changed the play from a quarterback sneak to a sweep on to a pitch on that play when Green Bay adjusted their defense and had 2 guys in the A gap. Again, I know I'm going real deep and heavy on this play, but again, that's your coach? Yep, that's my coach. I'm defending my coach. He has to make the best play for his team. It has nothing to do
I'm shocked if you don't get it because I'm so used to you going for it and getting it.
Exactly. He was 80%. He went to it. Again, at the end of the day, you have a fan base that I'm a part of, that I have been saved from the mentality of fear of what is going to happen. I'm playing with house money right now. I can no longer say that I went to the only playoff win in the history of the Lions franchise in 1991 when we beat the Cowboys. I'm glad. So now I can let that go. So now it's like, okay, what are they going to do in this window? Are they going to get to the Super Bowl? Are they going to win the Super Bowl? I'm playing with house money. So the thing is, there's no real fear in what this is. Even this game coming up with Buffalo, there's no real fear of, oh, what can they do that we can't come back with? So the thing at the end of the day, Dan is going to do, he knows that team like the inside of his hand. He's going to make the best moves regardless of what anybody says. And I'll take you back, and I'm going to shut up. I'm going to take you back to the doggone Bucks game when his coaching cost in that game. That's the first thing he said at the podium at that game. The coaching lost this game. We have never been able to say that since that loss.
Yeah.
Now, so it is what it is. Am I saying they're going to go undefeated the rest of the season? No. But at the end of the day, the coach knows his team. He's going to put it in the best position. Yes, everybody in Lions fan want them to get a ball to Sonic and Knuckles every time and let them do their thing or find Amara or find J-Mo. But you have to have a element of surprise, so to say, to make sure that you have balance to be able to do the things that you want to do.
To your point, Amon-Ra wasn't complaining. He was just, you would have thought he was playing defense the way he was out there blocking, not minding his business. It goes back to what the players are buying into. And now, to your point, this is a culture thing. This is a culture in Detroit now. Q, you buying what Teddy was throwing?
No, because and here's the irony of it. What Campbell is doing has kind of started to permeate throughout the rest of the league. I was listening to the Falcons versus Vikings game, and Raheem Morris was in a similar situation. 4th down around the 30-yard line. Could he kick the field goal? 4th and 3. He decides to go for it. They didn't get it. So it kind of snowballed in the other direction. So there's so many stats, there's so many things that you say, oh, go for it. The analytics say go for it this time. There's been 2 times this season where he kind of like, what was he going for? The fake punt against Minnesota, and this 4th down and the deep in your zone. Those are the only 2 times I've seen him go for it. I was like, yeah, you should have punted it. You should have stuck to the script and did it. Every other time I'm fine with it, including this 4th down to end the game where everybody and their mama thought it was Dan Campbell's call. It's now coming out that was Jared Goff who lobbied for them to go for it. Campbell wanted to kick the field goal. So he was okay with playing the numbers, taking the 3, and letting that depleted, tired defense have its shot. Goff convinced him, let's go for it. So that goes back to what Al has been saying. The players understand it. They come in with a level of trust to say, hey, we got this. We'll take on some of this burden for you as well. If it don't work, it's on us, not because of him. We got to execute the calls. And I think that's the thing. Everybody wants to go back to that San Francisco game. Sure, the decisions didn't play out well, but there were too many other situations in that game that shifted momentum. The Gibbs fumble, the 2 drops by Reynolds, the drop by St. Brown, the missed interception by Vildor. All of these things also played a factor in it. So it wasn't just a matter of, oh, if Dan Campbell kicks this field goal, they win the game. We don't know that. And I would rather go down, let the ship go down, knowing this is how we want to go down versus being anything inauthentic. And I think that's the one thing that you can't deny, that Dan Campbell is true to himself 99% of the time. And then when he's not, he admits it and he says, oh, this will never happen against the Tampa Bay game. Like, I would rather him go down that way. And sure, like, okay, yeah, 4th, you're on the 30-yard deep in your zone, yeah, punt the ball. I ain't got no problem with that. But if it's, and somebody brought up a scenario in my group chat, Lions make it to the Super Bowl, playing the Chiefs, 24-24, a minute and 30 seconds left, 4th down and 3. Are you kicking the field goal or are you going for it to keep the ball away from Pat Mahomes?
Damn sure going for it.
Thank you. And why? Because you recognize the opportunity and you see who's on the opposite end of that sideline.
It's not like Hutchinson is in there. We're talking about this defense too. It switched. So now I can't trust the kicker. And I'm not saying I can't trust my defense because Glenn is doing one hell of a job, but my big hitter ain't even in there.
And I'm not going to let Mahomes, who's had a history of walking teams
dictating
down,
the games.
Nah, I would rather not get it and then still put the pressure versus get it and close that game out and do what he did versus Green Bay, kick the field goal on my terms. And that's where, I mean, he's got us to this point doing that. So you have to ride it out. This ain't a situation where, oh, he had some success playing it straight lace and now wants to turn into the gambler. No, he's been this way since day one.
Yeah.
So you take the good with the bad.
So tell Teddy to get on a boat and row.
Right.
Not to mention, we got to stop doing this because we're doing it to coaches. We're telling coaches how to coach their team because nobody's going to care if it works. If it works, then you win. It only matters when it doesn't work. We done told you out there and told Lamar Jackson that he needs to throw more. And now this fool's in the pocket with total lanes to throw it because he's listening to you every Sunday, Monday, Thursday. And he done forgot how to be his God-given self, which he should give you the finger that I ain't going to talk about because this is a family show and run. Even his own mama cussing him out now. Anyway, we have to stop doing this. We have to let identities be identities in sports. It's unfortunate. Speaking of new identities, the Vikings hitting the white chick, Selly, They just if there's a Selly of the year, this team is getting it. Justin Jefferson became the first player in NFL history to surpass 7,000 receiving yards in his first 5 seasons. On Sunday, 7 receptions, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. That inside route, you would think at this point in his career, he's not going to take them hits. They are killing them, these teams on the inside. Jordan Addison, 8 receptions, 133 yards, 3 touchdowns. I remember when you was drafted, Jordan. I remember working on that Fell Live, doing something on you. Good to see you. Sam Darnold, 22 of 28, 347 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. He is the first Vikings quarterback in 2 decades to throw a 5 touchdown passes in a single game. Last time it was done for a QB as a Viking, who you think it was?
Dante.
Yeah, you're right about that. Dante Culpepper did it. Of course, he had a nice little Randy Moss with him. But
Right.
so at this point, he was just throwing it up and just turning around, not even looking no more. But Dante Culpepper, Vikings. Oh, did they take care of the Falcons? 42-21. How do we still feel about the Vikings? We've seen this before in quarterbacks. Sam Darnold's trajectory has been awesome. Do you pay him, or do you let it ride and then figure it out later?
So I'm going to say this first. I'm going to borrow this phrase from somebody we know well, Bubba Dub. The Falcons are trash. They are flat out trash. And Penix needs to be on the field within the next 2 weeks because this is ridiculous.
Okay, well, I don't need to ask the question then. Good for you.
That trash. I mean, your cousin's just trash.
You don't believe in Kirky Cousins no more? Speaking of him, let me dissect. 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions in the last 4 games, 22-37, 344 yards, no touchdowns. He threw 2 picks. 1 against New Orleans, 1 interception against Denver, 4 against the Chargers, 2 against Minnesota. Raheem said that's still his quarterback. So I mean,
he got to say that right now. He's paying that money, that guaranteed money, but he's trash. But so Minnesota, I watched that game. Atlanta was in that game until Kirk didn't allow him to be in that game. Atlanta's defense just wasn't doing what they would need to do. They were just allowing them to pass. They weren't getting pressure, and it was bad. I will give a shout out to Luther Ellis' son that plays for Atlanta because that dude was doing this thing out there. But it was just bad. But again, they have confidence. They are a team that knows this is what we're trying to do. Now, when you disrupt what they're trying to do, then it becomes a problem. Now, if you put pressure on their defense by scoring, that puts pressure on their offense. When we played them the first time, it was a good matchup. But again, at the same time, it really was a situation where offensively they have things that they like to do, and that motion is what gets teams in play in trouble when they put the wide receiver in motion because it sets up the matchups. It sets up, and they pick play crazy in Minnesota. So you have to know how to play it, and Atlanta didn't. The scary thing about it, Minnesota is a healthy Addison with Jefferson and TJ. TJ really hasn't done too much since he's come back. So the thing is if they can get him to the offense, they could be, at this point right now, and Detroit is my team, based on the rest of these 4, they could win the North. They could win the North. The last game of the season could be for the North with the Lions. Hopefully it's not, but it could be. And Minnesota can beat Detroit. They can. I'm just saying because of how they played strength against strength. Now, they're not a fluke. I don't necessarily trust their running game. Jones still is a fumble liability. He hasn't done it in a while, but I just, you see them against a bad team. I want to see them against, a good team. And, I like this NFC North because they've been chippy. You don't see us for another 5 games, but McKinney want to be chippy and talking trash about what he is and is not going to do. And then he got that interception at the end of the game like he's doing something. Listen, Kirk Cousins is not Jared Goff. And they're going to have a game plan. And they listen and hear everything in their game plan. And Ben is petty when he wants to be. And he'll expose he'll expose somebody on the defensive side when they got too much to say. So, but Minnesota is definitely a playoff team. Minnesota is a team that you have to watch out for because they can have an upset and go on the run in the playoffs. Yeah.
Are you paying really quickly? You paying Sam?
No, I don't. Most
Short
I would
term.
do is I would franchise him.
Yeah.
I would franchise him and then let him and JJ battle it out and have him on a short leash next year, depending on what happens this year. JJ should be fully I mean, you got the number 1 draft pick. I mean, he was your first round draft pick. You got to let him give an opportunity to play. Yeah. But I would franchise him and go that way. When he doesn't have a choice, I don't have to put him on a couple year contract because they're going to be high bidders for it. So that's the thing is, this is my security blanket. No, Daniel Jones, he's only in the picture right now because he's just out there. He's just there, just break in case emergency, and I really don't want to break even in an emergency.
If you learn anything from Atlanta, you don't pay him, or New York, you don't pay him. And if you're watching this show and you're a Cowboys fan, and we're talking about the Vikings, this is what you should have did. You should have went and got a second guy to help out.
They thought they did.
You should have went and maybe.
According to Jerry, they pushed all chips were in, but I guess they were playing with fool's chips.
Can I move on, Q? Or you got anything left to say about the Vikings or the Falcons here?
I'm good.
I got one word for you, fellas. Doink. The close game magic continues. They win their 9th straight AFC. Patrick Mahomes led the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions 12-1 on the clock, killing 4.5-minute drive to set up Matthew Wright's 4th field goal. The ball clanked off the upright in the latest narrow escape for Kansas City, which is 10-0 this season in one-score games, and they were playing a team in the Chargers who can't win close games, it seems. Patrick Mahomes, 24-37, 210 yards, 1 touchdown. If you ask me, they're finding a way to get it done. But how vulnerable is each close game win showing that that's who they are?
I mean, it's a situation where long as you do what you got to do, there's no style points like it is in college. A win is a win. And I think that's the thing that they're hanging their head on. It's like, long as we do what we got to do and escape with a victory. I mean, even our Lions have kind of adopted that mantra. I don't have to win the game 40-10. I can win the game 19-18. And that's all that matters. Now, the way it's happening is kind of wonky, like the block field goal, the made field goal off the... And everybody figures, okay, your luck is going to run out, but what if it doesn't? Yeah. Maybe this is...
He threw that pass to Travis, and I was like, these fools always...
It's like, maybe this is just who they are going to be this year. And, I mean, Buffalo got them, but really, after seeing how Buffalo was against the Rams, like, Buffalo is exposed. I'm very curious to see how that Lions game plays out, because if they zone up that secondary is very susceptible to being exposed and being taken care of. And if the Lions are able to get maybe 2 or 3 of those defensive guys back to kind of hold the fort, DJ Reader, Eric Pascal, or even McNeil back, that will help them up front. It's going to be a battle, but I would not be surprised if the Lions win this game. And I think that's where, when you look at the Chiefs and the AFC, it's like, who is really going to, what, is Pittsburgh going to step up? Is Baltimore going to step up? Like, do we trust Russell in Pittsburgh? Is Lamar really going to tap into who he is as a quarterback, or is he going to kind of still listen to, like you said earlier, pay attention to what the naysayers are saying and not be who he is as a quarterback? And as long as he's playing that way, that plays into the hands of every opponent that they face. Let Lamar be Lamar. And if he is, then Baltimore is dangerous. But if he isn't, and if Pittsburgh, their defense, and they find ways of still using that 2-headed monster, possible. I just don't see how KC, any of them teams are gonna be able to overtake KC because of Andy.
Big red machine just continues to get it done. And at this point, they have nothing left to prove. So these games that are close and they're getting through it because now we ain't got to blow nobody up. We just got to get it done. We got to get to where we got to because we know that when we get to where it counts, we know how y'all are against us. We don't have nothing. We don't have nothing to be ashamed of until you beat us, and we still have to wait on that. So, so, but they got me over here like Florida Evans. Damn. With every single time, like, is somebody gonna do it? Damn, you're killing me. Is somebody gonna do it? Oh my gosh. Anywho, last but not least, we end the show with the Eagles. I thought this was going to be an NFC conversation. It's not looking like an NFC conversation because, hell, we don't even know who the Eagles are neither. 22-16 over the Panthers. Hurts' passing yards were pedestrian. 14 of 21 for 108 yards. A.J. Brown had 4 catches for 43 yards. He was not happy if you saw that post-game interview. And threw his helmet in anger after a 3-and-out. Devontae Smith, 4 catches for 37 yards. Saquon gets the record. LaShawn McCoy's single-season rushing record, 124 yards. He breaks that record. At this point, the only way he's going to win MVP is if he breaks the other record because they ain't trying to get no running back, no MVP. And the last time a running back won it, Eric Dickerson had to take it off. So how can the Eagles solve this offensive problem? There's chatter in the news. We got somebody apologizing about making some comments. Like, we got a lot of teams where we're kind of confused as to, even within the record is the record, but do we know who you really are going into the postseason?
I think you do. I think you do. They do know who they are. Because in the past, I think Hurts felt that everything had to fall on his shoulders. But you have Saquon in the backfield, and now this is the bell cow. Like, you don't have most teams don't have a bell cow. You don't have a Saquon, so I have ability to do this. The issue is what happens when you play against a stout run defensive team. Is Hurts going to be able to do what he needs to do to be able to get you the dub? And the thing is they haven't been put in that situation in a couple of months to see what that looks like, and they may not be put in that situation for the rest of this season. So the next time they're going to see it is in the playoffs, and if they are not the number 1 seed, and if they get to the NFC Championship and it's not at home, what does it look like? This team is, offensively, they know exactly what they want to do, but again, you play against a stout run defense team. You're not the tush push and all of this, 30 carries a game is not going to be effective. So then what's next? Because now you're going to be is that offensive line going to be able to hold up against a team that has a good push? And that's the question. Now you have the internal things that's going on in the locker room right now, which, again, why is that coming out? While we're in this playoff push for number 1, that's a problem. That's something that the coach needs to have their guys come together, and we're not going nowhere until we figure this out. Friends or not, y'all players, y'all professionals. We need to figure this out ASAP. So I think we know who they are. They can be very scary and very dynamic offense in this league. Could be the number 1 offense in the league, depending on how they're playing the game and who they're playing against. But they can also be very vulnerable too when their strengths are limited. So that's the problem that we don't know, because the NFC, the East is trash. I'm sorry, I forgot. But they have trash and one to be determined, because the second half of the season, Kingsbury
I feel it. I get it. I understand. Hell, I'm just happy that we ain't even in the wild card. We ain't even in the hunt, baby. We the second. They got the first line and we the second line, and and we still don't know what we're gonna look like in the playoffs. I understand that. To your point, the Eagles last year, they lost 1 game, then they lost 2 games, and then next thing you know, it just was this domino effect where we never could figure out the problem. and they just disintegrated so quickly. And now they're not in that boat. But to see the turmoil, it's obviously carried over. It never fixed itself from last year. Q, how are you feeling about the Eagles? And to your point about the Bills, love them to death. I appreciate for someone that's had open heart surgery. Shout out to me at 3 months old. I am an advocate for DeMar Hamlin, but that's secondary. It's you they exposing, my guy. Anyways, Q.
I mean, I watched the Eagles play the Panthers, and that game was there for the Panthers all day. And then for you to come out of that performance and hear the infighting, yes, they won, but is there internal crumbling? And this could be the thing that derails a good team on the field. The frustration spilling over, and people underestimate beef in the locker room. These are the things that can kind of make things difficult and make things hard to get to that next level. I'm excited to see them take on Pittsburgh this weekend, because that's going to be a tough game, battle for Pennsylvania, and that's going to be a game that both sides of the ball is going to pressure.
I feel a little bit different about Pennsylvania, but that's another subject. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. But that game is going to be the game that's going to press them on both sides of the ball, and Hurts is not going to be able to dink and dunk. He's going to have to air it out. So what? Because
TJ Watt is coming for your ass.
So I wouldn't be shocked to see Pittsburgh kind of try to nullify the run game and make them beat them through the air. Is it possible? Sure. But when you have somebody that's frustrated, AJ Brown has already shown that he's frustrated.
Yeah.
So what's going to stop him from being more frustrated if the first quarter he gets no targets or things aren't going his way? He's going to pull a Dez. But I think that's the biggest thing that's going to possibly nullify Philadelphia being who they are. And then when they face a team that they can't just bully defensively up front, what's going to happen? And that's why I think that's why getting that number one seed, whoever gets it and gets that bye, you avoid teams like Green Bay, you avoid teams like Minnesota, and even Washington that have some weapons that's going to challenge you in that first round, where it's like, ooh, this is a good matchup. So I think that while we were talking about the uncertainty of the AFC, we can see the NFC being some slugfest in that opening round of playoffs. It's going to be some slugfest, and it would not surprise me to see the underdog win all those games, depending on how the matchup goes.
Quickly, do you think Nick Sirianni has control over this team?
He's losing it. I mean, it's been inconsistent because he's inconsistent. They're not checking his antics out or calling out his antics because they're winning. Think about it. He going off on the fans and all this stuff. No, everything is fine as long as you're winning, but let them wheels start getting creaky, or let them wheels start falling off, and you lose this game versus Pittsburgh, you lose another game that you shouldn't win, like you shouldn't lose. They're going to look back at him, and especially if it's some of the turmoil in the locker room, he's the leader. He's the person that leads that organization.
I hate this time of the year because you get so excited once August comes and September comes and football is here, and then you get the week 14, 15. It's December, it's snowing, Christmas is 2 weeks away. What happened? Once October ended, it just said but it's ending and you're like, damn, here comes the Super Bowl. February, football is gone, college football is gonna be gone, and then we gotta recircle and do this again. Last but not least, let's settle the score, fellas. There's a little 30 for 30 thing that's out, this little nice little clip that's out, and it's going to be about sacks and the record, and Brett Favre basically saying he gave Strahan the record. Some say he slid. He would like to say he slid and just gave it up. Other people say Michael Strahan will get that record with or without you doing what you did. You just didn't want to get hit. Did he give it to him? It was or Mike, if you're watching this, I feel as though as bad as you was back then, you was justified in that. You was gonna get it. Brett, what are you talking about? Get out of
Brett,
here.
Brett made a business decision.
People, okay?
Brett made a business decision. It was gonna happen regardless. It was about how long did I want to stay in the ice tub that after the game. So he made a business decision in that moment. We know Mark Gastineau is really not happy with it all these years later. But he made a business decision. Are you gonna take the KO or you gonna take the TKO? I'm gonna take the TKO. I'm gonna let the ref go ahead and say, yeah, this one's over, as opposed to me having to keep taking shot after shot after shot after shot. So it is what it is. I hate to be that person to be like, man, you got to get over it. But that's apparently something that Mark Gastineau is just holding on for, his life, and that was something that he's looking forward to. I'm looking forward to this 30 on 30. I haven't watched a 30 on 30 in a while, but I saw on social media today, and I was like, what is this? I was like, oh, okay. So now I'm intrigued. But again, Brett did what he was supposed to do. Strahan did what he was supposed to do. He was in kill mode. It was gonna happen, and instead of the kill shot, it was like, here you go. Here's my flag. I'm good. So
he gonna tell him he basically helped him get it. That's like telling Sean Taylor that Troy Aikman had any chance on that sack.
Nah,
this is
far of trying to be relevant in the circumstance where he got heat from other things still piping down his backside. We all know what the play was. This isn't a situation. We saw it. You can watch that play and see what it was. This wasn't him trying to, he spun out or Strahan made, no, he took a dive. He took a dive. He made a business decision, and it worked out. But it wasn't a situation of, I'm giving this to you. No, he took it in a gentle way. So that's all you can say about that, and that's how I'm gonna leave it.
Hey, look, we got that to watch. I gotta get into this AFC North thing. I gotta get into some Hard Knocks. It's so much to watch. There's so much going on. I'm overstimulated. This is the most overstimulated I've been going into the new year as I can even imagine. Anyways, this one is a wrap. Tristan, I hope you're listening. This one is a wrap. Episode 140. Fellas, when we see you, it's going to be 2025.
2025.
You couldn't tell me in 1999, and this meant a lot in DC, after you ended up New Year's, you couldn't tell me in 2000 it wasn't going to turn to apocalypse. But, the lengths your 11-year-old, 12-year-old brain is going to go. But, hey, I'm still here. It's 2025. We're still living. Wishing you to have a Merry Christmas. Don't eat a lot. Don't drink a lot of eggnog. Well, then again, drink a lot of eggnog. I hope you get some presents. I know it's about the kids, but I hope y'all may get some. Black men need presents too. Men need gifts. They need love too. It's not all about what they're giving to us. Stop playing around with yourself.
And no better words have been spoken right there.
Right. I received.
You deserve, Mama D. We're gonna. I would say, like I say every week, and I don't care if it doesn't rhyme. It's still mine. I'm like Kevin McHale, America. One more show. Damn, can you believe it? I'm supposed to be making a comeback, and now we got to end it. One more show, and we see you in 2025. Thanks, fellas. Peace.
Peace. Happy holidays, people.
Happy holidays, man.
Happy holidays.
Happy New Year.
All that good stuff.